Alright, hello. I'll try to not waste your time at all. Small unedited Valkyr video because I changed a bit of stuff about Valkyr and I want to talk about it. So on the previous build, on the build that I used to use, I would use the Enraged augment that made Hysteria deal a ton more damage. And I kind of focused on the damage more than anything else, but in this time, this is not obviously the build, but I want to show prolonged paralysis and what it actually does. So without this, normal paralysis works like this, what we're gonna see right now. So you press 3, enemies become susceptible to finishers for a small period of time, and that's about it. That's all it does. If we are in front of them, behind them, no matter what, it has a 360-degree angle, so no matter where the enemy is, you're still gonna get the stun on them. Which is, arguably kind of bad. The ability doesn't really help you whatsoever. The stun doesn't do anything and you lose your shields for it, so not very worth it. However, if we use prolonged paralysis, this says affected enemies are pulled towards Valkyr and the stun duration is increased by 200%. And then the stun duration, how much it increases, doesn't actually scale with ability duration, it scales with ability strength. So, I had no idea about this augment and what it actually does, because reading it, this seems pretty bad. It doesn't seem like it changes anything, but after talking to Nev a bit and he showed me how it actually works, this augment is pretty busted. So if we press it now, enemies get ground finished instead. They're stunned for way, way longer. And yeah. As you can see, it's generally just way, way better. Oh, they were blinded, so it doesn't do that, but yeah. This changes your 3 to basically a Rhino Stomp. And because your 3 is actually 360-degree angle, if I go in the middle of these enemies and press it, they're all just pulled towards me and then, Rhino Stomp, basically. So it's really good. It is really, really good. And the best part about this, the part that, this was the reason why I thought this was crazy, was something I had no idea about this game whatsoever. And that is that ground finishers have different multipliers depending what weapon you use. Now, most weapons are at a 10 or a 12, as you can see, but there is a few exceptions. So sword and shields are 8, assault sword, which is the Grineer soul weapon, is at a 9. And then there are the dual daggers, dual sword 16, tone fuzz at 20, close sparring and fist at 30, and finally Valkyr's talent specifically is 54 times ground finisher multiplier. So what this means in practice is that if we now spawn these enemies again and do the same thing but with our 4-up, the damage is way, 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 way higher. It gets pretty crazy. So the build itself, after all, it changed. It doesn't use Enrage anymore. It uses Eternal War and Prolonged Paralysis. It is pretty heavy on strength and decently heavy on range. So this gives us a 19-meter range around us on Prolonged Paralysis, Nourish for energy regen and extra vital damage on the 4th ability, and Arcane Continuity here. So one thing I need to mention is that if you still have energy problems, you can take off Arcane Strike, but I don't think with Nourish you have any problems whatsoever. At the end of the day, you can close the 4th ability for like 2 seconds and you'll still be able to survive just fine using a melee fortification, melee weapon, and Magus Elevate or something to heal you. Especially when you're in a squad, you have no issues whatsoever. 4th ability build hasn't changed at all. Pronon Snap is still here because it is by far the highest damage you can get if you want to go higher level, but you can, if you don't want to use this, if you don't like using that type of build for, high level, you can replace Condition Overload with Prime Pressure Point, and then you can replace Pronon Snap for probably more damage? I don't know. Probably Elementalist would be fine, because, Toxin procs, but in my opinion, you can you can simply keep it. It's a mod slot that doesn't do anything. Maybe Gladiator Vice would be fine because, yeah, more Blood Rush in there. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like, this is why I like Proton Snap on her, because you don't actually need to mod for Corrosive, because Arcane Continuity gives you Corrosive automatically as long as you have Toxin. And since you have Toxin and Corrosive, you automatically deal more damage. So, if we, for example, do this, right, and then with Proton Snap buff appears now, it's that buff right there, on the left. And then, you know, now we have Viral, Corrosive, and Toxin onto our Valkyr talents. So it is ridiculously strong. So we're gonna go on the mission. So how this does against actual enemies on Ani, because it's my favorite mission. This mission doesn't have nullifiers, which is why it is my favorite. For some reason, nullifiers do not appear here, which is really nice. Now, Nourish could be replaced with Wrathful Advance if you have a teammate running Nourish. If you are in a team environment, there is a high chance that they're running Nourish. And, you know, it's gonna be way easier to keep energy. Also, the good thing about Paralysis is that it barely uses any energy, so you're pretty safe just spamming it whenever you want, whenever you feel like. And it really just works like pretty much forever. The good part about it is that it doesn't work through walls, so... Oh no, never mind, it does. It does work. I thought it doesn't for some reason, but it does. Regardless, it's a 360-degree Rhino Roar, Rhino Slump, my bun. That just stun locks enemies and pulls them towards you as well, so... If we don't really care about the fourth ability augment for Rhino and we are looking at the ability in terms of CC and what it does, it's just a straight up better version of it, which is really strong in my opinion. So if you ever feel like you're running out of energy, you can use Zenoric and Nourish now, and then boom, we're back to full energy. Really quick. Because of that, disclose the ability for like 2 seconds, survive off straight up shield gating, I don't know, anything like that. Hide a bit, I don't know, do something, and then go back to going crazy. But yeah, all in all, this is kinda the gameplay. But it's nice because all abilities work in harmony and it feels really strong to use. You are pretty much never in any danger whatsoever. And it makes Valkyr an actual decent CC frame. Because of this. Which is quite valuable. Having grouping ability on a frame always makes the frame better, regardless of what you do and what your purpose is. Which Valkyr's purpose in general is 100% to be the acolyte killer of the squad. The only issue you would ever have would be violence, but even with violence you can probably help it out if you cast your 3 real quickly. Because she will get stun locked. But yeah. Super simple gameplay. Makes the setup way stronger than what I used to have. And yeah. But here I'm gonna close the fourth ability in a bit. Never mind, I got an energy orb. So Nourish gave me back full energy. One thing I need to mention about the fourth ability. If you use your 3 before your fourth ability, and you have the fourth ability open for quite some time, there is a high chance you can die. Because your fourth ability, how it works, you take some part of the damage you were dealt while in the fourth ability all directly. So if you don't have full shield gate, or if you don't have shield gate at all, you can easily die from this. It's not that uncommon actually. So that is one thing to be careful of while playing this. Other than that, this is very safe. It deals a ton of damage. and you're actually pretty useful even on a squad. You're not a solo running whatever anymore. So yeah. Same build at least for the talents, but completely different approach for the Valkyr build at all. But, I mean, this is way, way better. This is just way, way better. Yeah, in theory, you can pretty much have the fourth ability up all the time, but I wouldn't suggest it. Once I'm going back to full shields here, I'm gonna close it, then reopen it again, because that's gonna help a lot. Keep my energy up, not stack the damage too much so I don't die, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, around 100 kills per minute, fairly easily, using this. Even though we're taking our time using Proton Snap, it still has decent kill per minute. And if I find the Acolyte, which is up there, we'll do your 3. And, well, Jesus, nice. Big surprise. I mean, Valkyr is already super good at killing Acolytes on her own, so there is no surprise that she still is really good at killing Acolytes on her own. Yeah, pretty decent. Even though you're using a melee setup without melee influence or anything, because you can group enemies very easily, you can have really high kills per minute using Valkyr and using the setup, which is quite nice. As I said, there is variations. If you don't want to use Proton Snap, you can think about using more type of damage, maybe more Toxin. More Toxin would also be fine. But in general, it's just there is not much difference I would do to my setup here. Just on a squad, I might take this and use, you know, instead of Nourish, I would use the Colerva ability. Wrathful Advance, yeah. For some reason, I was thinking of Caliban's ability because it has a similar name. Regardless, this is the build for Valkyr. This is the build for the talents. Primary and secondary doesn't matter as long as I have Dexterity Arcanes for the combo duration and Zeneric for energy regen if you're lining solo with Nourish. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.